Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter, and this is my impressions of the network test version for Elden Ring. This is November 2021. This was a network test that they were just doing over a weekend. I unfortunately did not get in the Xbox One here in Japan, but thanks to Bandai Namco UK EU, they did provide me with a code for PlayStation 5 so that I could check this out. So huge thanks to them for that. That being said, I don't want to make a video where it's overly scripted. I just want to show you some raw gameplay. Not the best gameplay in the world. Not edited together to just be like a really cool montage. There's plenty of other YouTubers doing that, and plus my gameplay is not that good. But to give you an idea where I'm at, I'm kind of an intermediate, I think, Soulsborne player. I've completed Dark Souls, the first one, a few times. Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. Each time I've always usually ran into a wall. I almost was going to quit, and then something got me over it, and I fell in love. So I am very familiar with the systems. That being said, it took me I think the first part of the network test, it took me like 2 hours to figure out the controls because it's been so long that I just completely forgot. And there's a lot of pop-ups in the network test. Obviously, they're just slicing this game up in a way where they're throwing you in the middle of everything. I don't imagine this is going to be the flow of the actual game. As such, you can't really take this as any indication of where they're going with the balancing. They're just giving people a lot of access to the open world, to the network, to other players, just to see how everything goes, and of course to get impressions out. So there's going to be things that they purposely put in here, things they'll take out, and stuff like that. That being said, though, this was a heck of a demo. Once I did actually slow down and actually read all the pop-ups, which kind of reminded me of Monster Hunter, it all started to click again. It took me a while, and I had to Google how to dual wield a weapon. So there are some still things that are going to be a little bit trickier. But I think the idea here is that if you take it slow and easy, it ends up making a lot more sense. I also discovered that I am not into pure sorcery builds. So I did choose ultimately this Enchanted Knight as the last one that I went through to play. Of course, like any good Dark Souls game, there are funny comments all around to read. Most often not that helpful. Usually trying to trick you into thinking there's an invisible wall, making fun of you, but there are some really funny ones of just messages from players who accomplish something. But look at this. So there's really no load-in of any assets in this game. It's very seamless. It's very nice. You do see pop-in here and there, and I know that this will be improved by the time the final game is out. But even at the level that it is now, I don't mind it at all. I've never been a person who that really bothered. If I was going to give any graphical fidelity knocks, it would be one. I did notice that the From Software games have this frame pacing thing where it feels a little less smoother than it really is, just because of frame pacing, I think is the term. I did feel that here, so I am very curious whether or not either one, that'll be smoothed over, which I imagine it will. And two, I'm also curious, if the variable refresh rate on Xbox that's something that it's going to be able to help with. I don't know, because I was playing on the PlayStation 5, and I'm not, but I was playing on 1080p, so there was more than enough power here to power myself through this demo. But I did turn this thing to 4K, and it performed identically the same. So whatever I was feeling there was more of the current in-game engine and less a restriction of the hardware. But that being said, the game performed really well, felt really good, looked absolutely gorgeous. If I was going to knock anything graphically, it would be the skybox. But you know what? If the skybox has to be the one thing that's not horribly detailed in order to give us an incredibly dense open world with all these different locations to go to, that's a good enough compromise in my opinion. And there might actually be some story play reasons why the skybox the way it is. As far as I understand, I don't know the story at all, but this is kind of like a purgatory, so it's not even like the real world. So that could make sense that it gets this little otherworldly feel thanks to that. So here I'm showing you just my final playthrough of the demo after going through several times. I wasn't trying to complete the demo. I don't think you could. There's so much content that they threw in here. But I have to say that overall, it really reminded me of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I don't mean that in some hyperbolic way. It really did. The overall map felt more adventurous. There was always some item or NPC or dungeon or something around every little corner. All these little things with like elevations, if you get up on them, you'll see things that you never saw before. There's some hidden even dungeons that, you know, only by going up above you realize that there was a hidden staircase and stuff like that. So the sense of exploration was fantastic. I actually think this is going to be the very first Soulsborne game that I play without heavily relying on a guide. I think I might look at a guide just to make sure I'm not missing something very, very crucial in each major area of the game. But I think overall, I'm just going to wing it and sort of find my own adventure, especially if it turns out anywhere like this network demo. As you're seeing here, there's so many quality of life improvements that maybe they're in the racing games and I just forgot, but like you can warp in between all the different spots that you've unlocked, like the fire camp, so to say. You can change the time of day. You can even redistribute the amount of flasks that you have. So you have 4 of them, so you can have like 2 to restore your magic, 2 to restore your health. If you don't want to use magic, you can just go like 4 health flasks in some area. You can go 3-1. You can do whatever you want. The amount of freedom is so wonderful. Having a jump button in a game like this is so wonderful. Of course, it's always better for traversal to use the horse, which we'll be getting soon, because it does have the double jump, and it's a lot easier to run away if you find yourself in trouble. Here, I was just trying to mess with and try to figure out the controls for magic. It took me a while. As you can tell, I feel like I'm a noob to these series all over again. So it's just using the D-pad to cycle through your stuff on the left there. And then up change the sorcery that I had. Pew! The thing I love about the overworld, though, at least in this network test, is that it felt... safe is the wrong word, because you'll die a lot. And there are certain points in which, you know, the game is very obviously telling you, good luck, pal. But overall, it felt really safe, and I think that's because there's so many fallback mechanics. Like, there's these checkpoints of these little statues all over the place, so that, you know, if you're pretty far away from your last point of grace, it's not hard to just go right back and claim your dropped souls, so to say. So it's very easy to just play around and experiment without the fear that you're going to lose everything that you've worked towards. Where I think some of the past Souls games that I've played, the world map, everything just felt like a dungeon, right? Like, you always felt like, you know, you never felt safe. There was never any area where you could just grind casually. It was always like just 3 or 4 enemies around the same bonfire, then you'd quick run back and rinse and repeat. Here it felt more like I had the freedom to really run around, regather items, fight monsters, try new things, and then sell all the items that I got so that I can buy all the different items at this vendor. So that was nice. It gave me this idea that I could grind to my heart's content in a way that I want. Now they do manage, obviously, power balancing through the amount of runes that you can find, or the runes that you get from the enemies from that portion of the map. So as you go into more dangerous areas, you'll get the ability to earn more. But I thought this was a really nice touch, so I did spend some time here to farm some runes and sort of buy everything that was of interest at this vendor. So here is the second checkpoint, and we're going to be making our way towards the third. One thing, again, I love is just the idea of collecting stuff. There's something about the grind that I really like when it comes to games where, you know, like in Monster Hunter, I really like going around and mining ores and stuff like that. These enemies down this path are very easy. I was just using magic here to spam them until I had a weapon that I really enjoyed. And at this point, I still was not sure about how the Arts of War worked. I actually didn't figure it out until... or the Ashes of War. I didn't figure it out until the last few hours of the play. And when I did, it changed everything. But here I am just making some quick work of these little soldiers up here. And this will bring me to another point of grace. At least in this network test, there's so many different areas to save and to restart from that every little section felt, approachable. It felt, manageable, and I never felt scared that I was going to go out and go die because I was always in between a checkpoint that was pretty close. The cool other thing that about the real world here, the overworld, is that it's much safer in the fact that when you take down a full group of enemies, it restores your flasks. So if you want to just fight and gain stuff, you can also regain your flasks, which is great because you're not always backtracking or going back to a save point just to rest. That was a really welcome addition that I was happy to see. So I have some rather uninteresting gameplay here, but I'm not going to edit it because I know that when you do jump edits, it's really hard to get a feel for the overworld and what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to keep it plain as I talk a little bit more about why I feel this game is going to be the opus from Software. I mean, to me, it feels like they took the best things of everything they've ever done and they put it all into one game with its own story and its own unique feel. We have this beautiful, colorful, vibrant overworld, which feels new. I don't think we've ever gotten that in a Soulsborne game. Colorful and vibrant is not usually the words I use to describe those, but that's exactly what I felt here. Just open freedom and roaming, exploration, discovery. But once you go into like caves or dungeons, there's always a checkpoint at the start, and that's when it starts to feel like either the Chalice dungeons from Bloodborne, with all the different contraptions and running through them and trying to figure out an ideal route through the path, or you got the larger areas which feel more like Dark Souls 3, right? Like they're flat out dungeons with the interlinking areas and finding shortcuts and those types of things, right? So it's like they took, and the combat in general feels like an evolution of Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro. So you have like the posture damage, so the more you hit an enemy with like a dual hand attack, the easier it is to break their posture and then get in a bunch of big hits. You can jump, which is great. You can double jump if you're on a horse. You can run. The HUD goes away when you're exploring. So you get a little bit of everything. You get the Dark Souls, you get the Bloodborne, and you get the Sekiro. But you also get this wonderful fresh coat of paint, which is Elden Ring. Okay, here I am going up that same path. I did this path a few times just to grind, to get a bunch of runes so I can buy all the items from the vendor. I'm one of those people who like to buy all the items, or at least the ones of interest, like the cookbooks or the crafting things and all that stuff before I move on. And the game lets you, which is great. So here I am just killing all those guys, and we're going to be moving into the next area. So we're looking for our third checkpoint. You could just literally run to this, and that's like your first 1 minute of gameplay. These are the little statues I'm telling you about. So although we're not at a point of grace, so we can't like level up and do stuff like that, we do have a checkpoint. So if any time during this I die, I restart there if I want to, which means I'm always really close to picking up my stuff that I dropped. Now that doesn't make the game easy by any means. This enemy camp here, you'll notice I'm going to get trounced pretty hard, but this is more like a run, like a smash and grab, which of course Dark Souls is very well known for. Is the best way to get an item is to just run in, grab it, and run out, or grab it and die. Runes be darned. So here we're going for some items. I got the crystal tier, because there is a flask that you can customize later in the demo to do all sorts of different things, and this is a very popular one. So this part, I do admit, I did find through a video. I was watching someone else play. I think it might have been Vadi, but I think after this point I decided to not try to mimic the path that they went through the demo and just find my own. So here I want to run and quick grab the map, which is right there underneath the that sort of inscription. I'm going to summon the dogs here. I do love that they give you a symbol to let you know when you can summon spirits, and they are really great at distracting enemies. I mean, yeah, they're good for battles as well, but there's almost like no con to using them, which is great. And I saw with Rurikhan, he had a squid boy, like a floating jellyfish, which was awesome. So I think finding summons that you like is going to be wonderful. And it sort of replaces that need to have, like, do you remember in Dark Souls 1, you had this stressful thing where you need to have humanity in order to summon an NPC to help you? Here, they practically give you NPCs. Now, I'm not going to show you all the dialogue here with Melina, because I do not want to spoil everything, but man, is she a waifu, and boy, did I feel suggestive vibes over her dialogue. I was just like, an accord, so that's what the kids are calling it these days. Okay.
Greetings.
I shall strike one with you, my lady.
From beyond the fog.
But I do love the attention that they put in making sure that the lips really animate really well to the audio. I didn't play this in any other English language other than English, so I don't know if they redid this for like Japanese or something, but it's really well done. I love the fact that we can actually see her face. In the past games, those maidens are usually like shrouded in darkness.
Offer you an accord.
And she is a sweetie. This whole next part of the dialogue made me like,
Have you heard of the Finger Maidens? They serve the two fingers, offering guidance.
I don't know, maybe I'm just lonely, maybe I've got my head in the gutter, but like everything that she had to say was super suggestive to me, which I'm okay with. Anyways, let me skip past this part. So after you talk to her, basically that's when the demo begins. Because here now we can finally summon the steed, which is aptly named Torrent, like a torrent of water, which I thought was really nice. And this horse is a good boy. I really suck at mounted combat, so don't expect any cool gameplay from me. But I did really enjoy exploring with the horse because it's got the double jump. You can easily escape stuff. I think you can do magic and stuff on the horse, but don't ask me how. I don't know. But here I was just kind of just running around, just trying to see what I could find. These are the points where you might notice popping, like with the grass or whatever. But again, overall, in the greater scheme of things, like none of that bothered me at all. Even though I know it's going to be improved, I can care less, honestly. Just smooth gameplay and fun is what I signed up for. So here I was just kind of like just running around looking for some points of interest. I never used these giant springs. This is a good example of why you don't skip pop-ups, because I had no idea what to do. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out what button I can press to go up it. Ends up being just the jump button, which is, what was it, like X? And it jumps us up this area that I really shouldn't be in. You can tell immediately because there's huge giants everywhere, and I'm like, I gotta get down. It's amazing how far you can actually fall. You can fall and die, which you'll see in this video with the horse. So it's not like you don't take any fall damage. But it's more like they're very lenient in how much you can fall, which is great because it means it gives you a really good sense of exploring. I don't expect they're going to make it easier for us to understand, okay, is this fall fatal or not? I think that's where the network testing and the network part of it really comes in handy, because when you're, on the top of a cliff that you can't get down, you can generally look down and see a bunch of blood stains from other players who have died. And it's a great indicator that, okay, this is not an area I want to jump off of. And I gotta say, on that front, the network test was, I would assume, really well done, because I had blood stains and messages and stuff from other players. No weird hitches. Like, it played as if it was the final game. And, I mean, this thing's not even coming out until February. So, if they're just now going into the final polishing phase, like, oh, man. I can't imagine how good this is going to be when it finally does come out. Because, remember, they did this network test at the same time across the entire world. So this was a really good, meaty test to make sure that the servers were going to be able to handle everything. Plus, I'm sure this was a good chance for them to check out a few balancing things. Like, there is some Ashes of War which are just OP and way too powerful. Like, I purposely didn't grab it because I didn't want to be OP. But there's like a spell that has all these little sword icons that come around you, and you can use that to pretty much destroy everything in this demo. But that's not the point of the demo. The point of the demo was a technical test, and also to get early impressions of the features they wanted to give us access to. It is a shame that this was a lottery system. So while I'm very fortunate that I was able to get the hookup from Bandai, I feel very bad for those who applied and didn't get it. I didn't think I was going to be able to get in either because I didn't get the Japanese test result. I actually was not chosen for that, even though I thought with Xbox that I'd have a lot of chances. But I guess not. Here, if you notice, when you take down a whole group of enemies that are on the world map, it restores your flasks. And that's great, because normally you wouldn't want to just farm or run around and hunt people on the world map, because like the hallways in between dungeons, usually in these games, you just want to run through them, right? You don't want to engage with the enemies if you don't have to, because it's just giving you more risk. And I love the fact that now there's a little bit of reward involved as well. So if you do it really well, there's plenty of good reasons to, attack. Okay, so at this point I went back to the church. This is still the very beginning of the area that you start in. And I thought this was finally time to do like a dungeon. Now the great thing is where dungeons in the past games have all been really big affairs. And, big commitments. Like, okay, I'm going in here, I need like 30 minutes to an hour in order to navigate and get something worthwhile. There's a lot smaller dungeons on the world map, at least in this network test, which I really appreciated. These are kind of like bite-sized like quests that you can go on. So for someone who like me, who I'm into Monster Hunter, it's great. You get a checkpoint at the start, so you're not having to do all these run-backs, which is, a major complaint, I think, of games like this, is the run-back that you have to do if you die. You start way back, and then you've got to run forward to where you were before just to get a chance to try again. And that's never fun. But that's now pretty much eliminated here. So I went ahead and I put on a torch so I can get some great visibility, which is cool. I did hear that there are some areas that are like pitch black. So I love how effective the torch is. And we're just going to come into this little cave opening here. And I think there's a bunch of wolves to fight. And it's actually lit here. I actually don't need a torch. So I'm going to end up taking it off so I can use some magic here to just sort of hit the enemies. But there are some areas in the game that are very dark. So at least you have the option. So this magic spell is really powerful and allowed me to take good care of the wolves before they came up to haunt me. Because I'm very bad at crowd control. So yeah, this felt like immediately you sort of get an idea of the difficulty of a dungeon just from the opening NPCs, which is really nice. So here I was going in for, and I got the twin blade, which I did see some people using, and I really wanted to try it out. So I'm going to switch over to it. At this point, I still was not sure how to use its art of, why am I saying art of war? The Ashes of War. Because it does have, the Ashes of War is kind of like its special technique that happens when you press R2 and you are dual wielding the weapon. So I love the idea that there are more incentives now to switch between single hand and two-handing a weapon. Like there's tons of benefits to having to have like a shield with you, because the shield is really powerful in this game. But it's also very advantageous to jump into dual wielding. Just so you can do these special attacks, which don't require any points for this one, which was pretty cool. So here, let's continue into the cave. So it was at this point that I finally discovered that it's pressing R2 while dual wielding, which you have to hold down the triangle button and either hit R1 or L1, depending on if you want to use your left hand or your right hand. Once you get used to it, it's actually pretty easy to swap between the two. But when you're two-handing this, that's when you have access to its special attack, the spinning slash. This thing does tons of damage. It also does a lot of posture damage, so if you're going up against a boss, it's very good for staggering them. Got tons of items to pick up here, and you're going to see me just get my butt completely kicked by the boss here. And this isn't like an actual boss of the game, like a narrative boss. This is just like the big minion in the back of a cave. And I find that hilarious that this thing gave me more trouble than some of the other monsters in the game. I think it's because I was still getting used to everything. So here I was trying to look at where's my item to apply fire to my sword. Of course, I'm looking at crafting like an idiot. I'm not going to find it there. I'll have to go into actual inventory. And I believe you are able to craft these things eventually, which is going to be really nice because the fire grease is very cool. And I love the effects. Look at how cool that looks. You can tell that my insect glaive love is coming out here. It's just such a cool looking weapon. Go ahead and make sure we grab everything. And at the end of these little caves, they're not that long, is a boss door. And I found at least like 3 of these caves. I'm not going to show all of them. Or maybe I will. I don't know. I'm just freestyling this as I go through here, watching back my footage. I really didn't want to script this video because I thought I would lose some of my feelings. But here I'm just like whapping away at the boss, like, yeah, I'm going to destroy him. And then I quickly realized, no, he's going to destroy me. So now I'll show you the cool thing about the runbacks, because like, I want to go face him again right away, right? I don't want to go through and I don't want to kill all the wolves and do all the things and do all that again. So the loading was pretty fast, which was nice. Some of the past games have never been very nice in that regard. I'm going to go ahead and get myself all prepared. Mentally ready. Okay, we're going to do this? Yeah, we're going to do this. Let's go. And I started running through. You can tell at this point I still wasn't sure whether I was going to fight them or just go for it. And then I was like, you know what? This area is not that big. I'm just going to go for it. And that's exactly what I did. I just went for it. And you can do that, which is great. And it's not a huge, long, stressful affair. And there's checkpoints inside bigger places to allow you to do this as well, which is great. I could go and quick reclaim my grace, but it's not like I had a whole lot anyways. And here I'm just trying to get more used to using the attack and then keeping my distance. Enemies in this game have a lot of really big, what would you call them, wide-hitting attacks. I think that's because they want them to be able to deal with your summons. So it can get a little tricky as you try to figure out your distance, and the monsters are quite aggressive. But once you get it down, you know, it's not bad. Oof. Heal up. So here I'm just spamming R2 because I really want to get used to the spinning slash. I didn't even think to conjure my wolves here to help out. I think I completely forgot that you can do that. But yeah, you take down the Vo. I got a medallion, which is great. I didn't even equip this thing for like the next 30 minutes. And it actually gives you more stamina. So like I'm an idiot for not doing it. But basically we went here so we can get the flask, so that we can start concocting our own potions. And at the end of every dungeon is, one, a bunch of congratulatory messages, usually from other players, that they've used their items to write all over the ground here. And then, or they're just trying to completely lie to you, which is funny. But there's also a warp back to the checkpoint, which I think is fantastic. So I should have listened to that other player saying guard counter, because the guard counters is a game changer for me. If you have your shield on and you guard an attack, if you quickly follow up by pressing R2, you'll do like a sort of like a counter, not a counter attack, but you'll quickly do a special attack, and if you hit the monster with it, it can generally knock them out of their posture of where they're at. Okay, so after I'm done pretending I am Link from The Legend of Zelda, I'm going to go back here and go back to the entrance. I love the idea that they'll let you get back to the entrance, and maybe that means that we'll get dungeons they can design that, you know, aren't always backtrackable, you know what I mean? And then from here, you're always right back to another point of grace. So if I want to level up or do anything there, I can do that. Before I go on to the part 2 of my sort of walkthrough of my experience, at the very beginning of the game, you get this open area with this crazy big knight, and this is from Software as far as I'm concerned. That's who this enemy is. And they're just there to remind you that, yes, this game is not going to be that easy. So here I'm I'm trying to use the potion in which you blow yourself up, and I messed it up. And yeah, that's from Software telling me, no, this game's still got some challenge. Stop thinking you can beat us. So I did as any good Soulsborne player would do, and I cheesed the heck out of the boss. This is going to probably tick off so many people to see me doing this, but I used the horse to double jump to get on top of here. And then I just used this art here to stab and kill him. Before I did this, I actually redid my flask so that I had 4 flasks to recharge my magic, just so I can keep doing that attack. It was so cheesy, but I love the fact that I was able to cheese it. That felt pretty good. Take from that what you like. But that's a cool art that we got. It's a two-handed shield art that creates a huge circle of defense that if you fight in, it makes you very, very powerful and very hard to kill. So here I want to show you the guard counter, just because it's such a great thing that I didn't realize through most of my playthrough. All it requires is you not to do a parry, because parries are really hard. There is parries still. This just requires you to know when the end of their attack sequence is up. So if you know like an enemy does 3 attacks with their sword, you can, right after the third one, just guard it normally by holding down your shield and press R2. If you notice that posture damage, like, it's just crazy good. Of course, that's not going to work on every enemy, and there are some bigger ones like this guy where it's a little bit harder. This is sort of like the leader of this little pack of goons. You see, even then, I'm still doing a good amount of posture damage. Oof. This is me just being an idiot and getting myself hurt. Run away! Okay, then I got my composure back. I summoned my wolves, and they ate him for breakfast. Cheese, in the greatest regard. What's wrong? 4-1's too much for you? And yeah, the irony of me yelling about 4-1 and being too much. This is From Software saying, yeah, how do you like it? Lots of fun deaths. But I was able to run back right away, grab my fallen items, and get out. Now, if you think this is going to make the game like super easy, remember, this is just the overworld. This is not like a big dungeon. I imagine in those it's going to be very hard to get back and all your runes and then get back through alive. So here I want to show you one of the things I really like about the map and just the overall navigation, how well it is. So I was just messing around and I found this area that it looked like I can jump down. And I am assuming that you generally can, but I think I went a little too high and I ended up dying. So I had to get back to find my runes. I keep saying souls. It's so embedded into us, right? But I wanted to reclaim them and I wanted to get back to where I was, and I wasn't sure. All I had to do is open the map, look around, and then I could see my sort of floating runes on the upper right. It took me a little bit to figure it out. But if you go up here, you can see, this is where I died. So I'm going to go ahead and press X, I think it is, to place a marker. And yeah, now if you notice on my sort of compass above, it gives me a checkpoint telling me that I'm going in the right direction, which is honestly more than enough. But there's also a visual beacon of light as well, which lets me know how far away I am from it. So these quality of life changes are so awesome. I just hope that when they release the full game that they're not going to be like things that you unlock really late into the game and stuff like that. Here I was just kind of like looking for a way down into the valley that was a little bit easier. So I said, okay, let's travel down here. I mean, in past Dark Souls games, you never just travel down to check things out. Like, that's a really good way to get yourself killed. So being able to mess around a bit and just look around felt so refreshing. I can't wait to see what the castle is like, the actual dungeon, because it looked really hard and really complicated and lots of intertwined areas. Like the traditional Dark Souls, like the best of the best map design, that seems to be reserved for the bigger set pieces, where this open world is more for players, I think, like me, who really enjoy a place to just do exploration, find a bunch of optional dungeons, power up, customize, and just get ourselves ready for the challenge ahead. I had missed that there was a point of grace here when I first came through, so I was very happy I was able to find it. So now I can just warp here, quick warp anytime I want, which is great. I got back my lost stuff, and I'm figuring at this point, you know what? Do I really need to go back? No. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can find a way down. Worst that can happen is I die, they respawn me, and I pick up my stuff again. But it's pretty obvious that you can get down here, and I think I was just jumping from too high up on the bridge. So here I am looking around just for any types of hints. I can see messages down below from other players, so I know that it's not impossible. And this is where the online part really comes in handy. I can see here now that there's a ledge I can jump on because this kind person left a message. I feel really bad. I don't think I appraised it because I was like hanging on for dear life. Saying try to jump off. But this is where like these games feel like a community effort, right? Like not only are people being trolls, but they're also being very helpful as well. I regret that I didn't go down the other end of this pathway because I'm assuming that there's probably a dungeon that, or at least a way that I can get that summon that Rurikon's been using, which is a jellyfish boy, which is really awesome. And this is neat. So right here, I could use this to jump out, but then I noticed that there's a pathway just beyond it, and it's just visible enough that you can miss it. But if you don't miss it, you feel like you discovered it. It reminds me of like that opening of, what was it? That Zelda game that everyone loves. I can't remember the name of it, but there's, you know, when you first find the Master Sword, it feels like you're the one discovering it, but really everyone goes through the same process. It just feels like you owned it. So this is cool. This is a catacomb. So this feels more like Bloodborne to me. There's lots of traps and contraptions. I just did the same thing twice. Enemies, things to ambush you. Like, this is a fun area. I really enjoyed this catacomb. And I can't wait to find more because there's a bunch more in the demo even that I didn't find. Again, I wasn't going to like try to overplay the game because I know I'm going to buy this. Like, I was really excited for it. I played it a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is going to be gold. I can't wait for this. And that was more than enough for me to feel happy. What I was confused on is whether or not I was going to wait for ray tracing to come before I play it. But now I don't think I'm going to be able to wait. Here's a pressure plate that I just stepped on and I didn't even notice. And so now I'm thinking like the enemies are using this crazy magic against me. Seeing this back in edit, it's so funny how obvious it is. But at the time, I was so hyper-focused on the two enemies right in front of me, I didn't even realize that it was a pressure plate that I was standing on each time. And the great thing is that you can use this to your advantage. So I think I noticed it when I came back here. So here's the loading time to get back. It's not bad at all. And we're at the start of the catacomb. So let's go back in. Let's get our runes and see if I managed to figure it out. So I think I fought the guys again here. So I was like, you know what? There I am with the guard counter. Isn't that so powerful? All you have to do is just guard. And if you know that you've got an opening afterwards to hit them, hit R2 and boom. It does take a lot of stamina, but like it's just such a great move. Oh, here I was like, the heck with it. And then I was like, no. Then I looked back and I realized there was a plate. I'm like, oh, I get it now. And of course there was a monster I didn't take care of to ambush me. So here I realize, okay, they're shooting at me. Let's lure them out here and let's step on it. And watch what happens. The environment trap kills them, not me. So little points of discovery like this is just fantastic. This is the joy that video games can give, right? The sense of discovery. The sense that the game didn't tell me to do this, but I figured it out on my own. Such a good feeling. This reminds me of those like little dungeons in Zelda Breath of the Wild, where some of them are really intricate, but some of them are just very simple. This being a much more simple one. And here I am going down to room 2, which also has a pressure plate, which I think I didn't notice. Or did I notice it? Okay, I did notice it. And I was like, whoa, it's coming from behind me. Okay. And there's an enemy here. And foolish me thought I would like lure them out and then use it against them. But there were so many that came up to gang on me that I ended up getting killed. It teaches you, right? It's a learning experience. But if the dungeons were really huge and these scenes were optional, like there's points where you might be like, you know what, the heck with this, right? But they're short enough, right, that you can run through them and you learn from your mistakes every time. Here I was just like, you know what, I'm not even fighting you guys. I'm annoyed by you. I'm just coming back. I'm getting my grace and I'm going forward because the heck with you guys. I know what you're up to already. I don't need to, and I got a new spell too, Urgent Heal, so that's great. So you get a new spell, and we're going to get this nice little boss battle here against the Grave Warden. This guy, man, he hits so hard. Swinging around those hammers on chains. He's so aggro. Get out! I generally find that, you know, if they were to implement something like evade distance up in this game, it would be totally broken. Because they clearly designed the boss battles in these Souls games to really know how far back you can use a back evade. And generally, it's not far enough to avoid a big slam attack from a boss. Like you would. This is so sloppy gameplay. Oh my gosh. Just shows you that you can get through it. He's so busy trying to take care of my wolves that I was able to take him down. I didn't quite deserve that win. That goes to the doggies. And I get the Ash of War Stormblade. Now I'm not actually using a blade that can use this, but this is a really cool skill that you can put on a normal sword. Lots of message of congratulations from other players, and then a warp out. So my time with the network test was coming to an end, so I thought I would finally do what I've been wanting to do, which is this guy who insults you at the beginning of the game. Yeah, I was so not going to let him get away with that. You kidding me? NPC, be gone. I can't tell you how satisfying that was. It was just so good. Of course, in Dark Souls, it never pays to kill NPCs usually. Like that might be the one place that I like to look stuff up online. Yeah, Ratahead, that they called it so well. But in other ones that I didn't record because I was playing it in 4K, and unfortunately for the network test, they did turn off the ability to record using the PlayStation 5 during it, so I wasn't able to capture it. But there was other dungeons and other catacombs that I found and went through and had a really good time. I went down all the way down to the beach, and there's some really cool areas there. Here I am killing Santa Claus. And if you thought I let his mule get away, no, I'm not that nice. I chased it and I killed it. And then I decided it was time for me to get a little bit of punishment myself. So I went ahead and I ran up to the boss of the upward hill here, and you can see what happened. So this is the retribution run for killing all the NPCs that I ran across. Was now going to storm the storm gate. Here I am running up. I've already learned my lesson. I got hit by that big giant. I knew that the arrows were coming. So you see here, dying several times has taught me how to avoid getting killed as I storm the gates. It's always been one of my favorite things about Soulsborne games is that you can rush your way through. If you kept going down this path, you'd run into this huge pack of wolves. So here, I decided to stray to the right so that I didn't trigger them, which was actually a very good move. Look at the effects here, though, like the environment weather and stuff. It just looks fantastic. Like, the artistry on display here is just top-notch. Got the Scavenger's Shack. Some message in here. We'll ignore it. But there is a point of grace. So you see, I was able to storm up there, get past those enemies, and now I've got a point of grace. So if I want to sort of work back and try to defeat them, maybe there's probably some hidden stuff in between those areas, I can go ahead and do that, and I love that of the game. But here I think I was like on the last hour of the network text. I'm like, I want to face the guy at the top. So I ran it. I only had leveled myself up a few times, so there's obviously a lot of stuff I could have did to buff myself more before I went into this fight. Plus, I'm just not very good at the game, but even so, I was able to enjoy this network test quite a bit. I wouldn't say this is the easiest feeling Soulsborne. Again, this is not an actual demonstration of the difficulty of the full game. This is just a network test with a slice of stuff for us to play with. But I do think that the different things that they've added, like the quick travel, being able to warp across different checkpoints, customizing your flask, customizing your weapons, like there's all these things that add up to make this what I would say the most accessible Soulsborne game I've tried out till date. And I imagine that you know, in the final game, as long as these things are not unlocked very late, I think it's going to be the most... Look at this. You got a checkpoint right before the boss. Isn't that nice of them? This area has all these little swords and stuff in the ground which get in your way. It's so annoying. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be easy. Obviously, if it was an easy game, I'd be able to plow through this boss. I know, again, that spell with the little swords that come out at the side is bustedly strong in this network test, so people used it to just destroy this guy, like, I don't know, in a few seconds, pretty much. But just know that it's actually not that easy. So this is I think my first encounter with him. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was getting my butt kicked. So the wolves are really good for distracting him during sort of the first half. And once he gets to half health, then he busts out the hammer, and yeah, it gets kind of fun. So I fought him many, many times. I will end showing you one of my better attempts. But yeah, if you want to watch some really good gameplay, there's tons of content creators out there who are really good at these Soulsborne games, and they just destroyed everything. And then they were enjoying PvP. And they had different routes through the demo and stuff like that. It definitely wasn't the case for me. What I was just trying to do here was let my dogs distract him. And then I should have not got hit there. But I'm trying to dual wield the weapon as much as possible so I can do posture damage to him. And I discovered that if I can at least get him to half health with some of my wolves alive, it would help me a lot out in phase 2. So I'm trying to hold that down and trigger that. There's the posture damage. Oh, there we go. We get the visceral. I love how we all call it visceral, even though I think that's just a Soulsborne term. It just shows how good a term that is. It's so easy to understand that everyone just calls it visceral now. And here he is in phase 2, and I'm getting myself all excited and hurt. Quick get back here. The dogs are almost done. Here he just does a series of like 3 or 4 attacks. If I would just be very careful, I could have beat him, but of course I got very excited. I'm like, I'm so close. And that is usually the moment in which you die, and then you do it about another 100 times, and then finally your nerves end up becoming so not an issue because you've died so many times. That's usually the attempt that you don't think you're going to get it that you actually do. So it just shows you how much the psychology of the game matters in these things. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of my gameplay, less edited and not refined at all, because it might be a good contrast to what you're seeing already on YouTube, and just my general thoughts and impressions. And I am so excited for this game. I don't know how it runs on the other machines because I only played this on the PlayStation 5, but I had an absolute blast. So once again, a thanks to Bandai Namco UK EU for the hookup to participate in this. Hopefully they'll do a more public test and demo soon, as I would love everyone else to get their hands on this and just give it a shot. But until next time, happy hunting.